Hi, I'm Dave Wax, the head of the data team supporting the Democratic Party of Lee County. You're watching VoteBuilder 101, a video training series for precinct leaders. In the previous lesson, you learned how to log into VoteBuilder and find the key functions on the homepage. In this lesson too, you'll learn about My Campaign and My Voters, the two databases stored in VoteBuilder. You'll learn about the information saved in VoteBuilder about every voter in our county. In the exercises, I'll show you how to do a quick lookup of yourself and see the key information VoteBuilder has about you and other voters. After you've watched this video, I'd invite you to log into VoteBuilder and do a quick lookup of yourself and your friends, your family, and neighbors. When you're on the home page of VoteBuilder, you'll see two tabs on the upper left. One is My Voters, the other is called My Campaign. My Voters is about current voters. It's data about all the registered voters in Lee County. My Campaign is about volunteers. It's a temporary record of anyone who wants to help, and it may include non-residents of Lee County as well as residents. You'll mostly be using My Voters, so make sure you're on the right tab. You can get very confused if you're on the wrong tab. Now, My Voters has voter data that comes from the Lee Supervisor of Elections, which we often abbreviate as SOE. The data is updated monthly. It's based on the month-end book closing, so it's typically current as of the end of the prior month. And it includes information such as the party affiliation of each voter, both voting and mailing addresses, the birth date and their age. It includes the date they registered to vote in Florida. It says whether they're an active or inactive voter. It tells you about their voting history. Now, it also contains phone numbers, some of which come from the Lee SOE, some come from other sources, and it includes canvassing data that comes from our canvassing, whether it's from phone banking or from sending out postcards or texting or knocking on doors. And that data is in two sets, the so-called contact history and survey responses. And we'll look at both of those in the exercise that we're about to do. So in Quick Lookup, we're going to look into how you look up yourself, but I would suggest that after you've watched this video, you look yourself up, look up your friends and family, see what's there, play with all the functions, and then I'll show you that you can rearrange the order on the pages so you can focus on the information you're most interested in. Now, on the VoteBuilder homepage, as we said before, the key information is right on the center. And if you look on the upper left, you'll see My Voters and My Campaign are on the upper left. My Voters is, let me start again. So now we're at the VoteBuilder homepage. And so you get to the VoteBuilder homepage. Now on the homepage, so now we're on the VoteBuilder homepage. If you look on the upper left, you will see My Voters and My Campaign. Let's look a little more closely at those. You'll see My Campaign is always on the right, My Voters is on the left, and My Voters is dark blue when it is active. Make sure that My Voters is dark blue. My Campaign is orange when it's active, and you'll get very confused if you're in the wrong place. Now, we talked about the center of the page, so the first thing we're going to do is to click on Quick Lookup. So when you click on it, you will come to the Quick Lookup search page. And on that page, you can enter lots of information. There's many ways you can search for voters. To search for yourself, I would suggest that you put in your last name and put in the county. So in this example, I put my last name in, W-A-K-S, and the county I'm in. Now I have a somewhat unusual last name. You could put in your first name and you're more likely to find yourself. When I do that and click on search, I will find a list of everybody in Lee County whose last name includes Wax and who's in the county called Lee. And you'll see I'm right here on this list. So if I click on my name, I'll see my Van voter record. If you click on your name, you'll see your record. Here's my name. And then there's lots of information on this page. Both on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side, the information is grouped. Now, if you scroll down, you'll see more data blocks. There are lots and lots of data blocks on the page, and you'll eventually want to look at all of them. I will look at some of them as we continue through this example. Now, you can rearrange the order of the data blocks. On each data block, there's thin, faint 3 lines on the right-hand side. So if you look at where there are the faint 3 lines on the right, when you point to them, they will light up to show you can move them. And then what you could do is click and drag to change the order of that data block in the set of data blocks. So I suggest when you start doing this, move them in the order you'd like. Now, as an example, let's look at addresses. So you find addresses, which is usually on the left side. And when you click on it, what you'll see is, in this case, my addresses, you'll see your addresses, and there can be 2 addresses. Everybody has a voting address. That's the address that they are registered to vote at. It defines what precinct they are in and therefore what ballot they get. But they may also have a mailing address if they are filed to receive ballots by mail. Also, you can look at the address history. The address history will show prior addresses. Now, as the next example, over on the right-hand side, you can click on Vital Stats and Contact Preferences. That will show you the voting status. In my case, I'm an active voter. I'm a member of the Democratic Party. I am male. I'm white. It shows you my date of birth and what date I registered in Lee County. Now, next, let's look at the voter file VANID. This is slightly obscure, but it's 2 numbers that are fairly important that identify each voter. One of those is called the voter file VANID. That's the upper one in this case, and that is the number by which this voter is known in Lee County. The state file ID is the number by which the voter is known to the state of Florida's registration system. And each of those IDs for a voter can be used to search for voters in VAN. You'll find uses for both. Now, as another example, you can click on Also at Primary Address. When you do that, you'll see other members of your family. So for example, I see my wife, Sandy Teeger, right here. And when I click on that, I will see her voter record. So I would suggest when you do this exercise, look at primary address. And if you have other family members with you, look at their voter records as well by looking at primary address. Now, next example, let's look at districts. Districts shows you what county people are in, what precinct they are in, what congressional district they're in, etc. This is lots of information. You'll often want to know what precinct people are in. Now, on the left-hand side is where the phones are. I will see my phone numbers. And in this case, you can see there are 2 numbers that are listed. You look at your numbers, don't be surprised if some of them are wrong. So the first one that's listed here is a cell phone number. And here it says it's a verified cell. That means that NGP VAN has verified that this is in fact a cell phone number. And that's usually correct. Then I have a phone number, which NGP VAN says is likely not a cell, and in fact, it is not a cell. Now, in View Phone History, you can look and see what other phone numbers had been in VAN for this voter. Don't be surprised if you see numbers that you've had in the past, and don't be surprised if you see numbers you didn't have in the past that have been deleted. If you see any numbers that are wrong for you, you can click on Delete and remove them. Now, let's also look at contact history. Remember we said that there can be surveys that are done. Contact history is a record of the surveys. When you click on it, you will see, in this case, my contact history. You can see there are lots of times, lots of records of contacts that have been made. As an example, my friend Chet Sadler called me on the phone back in May of 2017. And the fact that it says manual means that he was calling me from a list, and the fact that he talked to me was entered manually from that list into VAN. And the record says I was canvassed, which meant he actually reached me when he called me, and he talked to me. So canvassed indicates that there will be answers to the questions that he asked me in survey results. So we'll look at those answers in a few minutes after we look at some other examples of contact history. As another example, back in October, I received a text message that came from Lee BWC. That was the name we used, Blue Wave Coalition, for all of the text messages we sent out last year. They'll all have that canvasser name. And it indicates it was entered in bulk. That is to say, the data was downloaded from the texting system and uploaded into VAN. And you'll see the record shows that I was texted. As another example, also in October, my friend Jeannie Ellington knocked on my door, and I can see from the fact that it says mobile that came in from minivan, because during a walk when minivan is used, mobile is the input mechanism. And you can see again that I was canvassed. That is to say that Jeannie did talk to me, and there should be a survey result. And as the final example here, just a few months ago in February, my friend Annette Pasiga, one of my neighbors here, called me on the phone, and she must have been using OpenVPB because that's what it says here. And again, she did canvass me, which meant that she talked to me, and there should be a survey result. So now let's look at the survey results. That's under survey responses. And you can see there are the records of the survey responses. So let's start with when my friend Chet called me way back in May of 2017. And the first question he asked me was, do I support the Democratic Party in the 2018 election? And I said, yes, I'm a strong Dem, or I said something to indicate that he thought that I was a strong Dem, which meant that he immediately said to me, will you volunteer to help us get out the vote? And I said, yes. And he immediately said to me, will you give me your email address so I can get in touch with you? And I said, yes. These records are stored in VAN and they're searchable, so we can find out who answered what questions in what way. Now, as another example, remember that I got a knock on the door back in October, and it was a literature drop. And I was asked a question whether I had already voted, and I said that I had. As a final example, when I was called on the phone back in February, I was asked, did I plan to re-enroll and vote by mail? And I said yes. And that provides us with a way in which we can follow up and make sure that I really did re-enroll and vote by mail. Now, all of these questions and answers are saved in VAN. We can build lists from them for future canvassing. So it's really important that we get this data into VAN so we can use it for the follow-ups. Thanks for watching Lesson 2. Before you watch the next lesson, I invite you to log into VoteBuilder and do a quick lookup of yourself and your friends, your family, and your neighbors. Take a good look at all the information VAN stores about each voter.